September 19th, 2024, for the council and commissioners, start the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we've convened this morning to find out exactly how much over budget we are and to see if we can make some cuts to get our budget in line so we can pass it on our next. And Jackie's here to help us go through all of our numbers to make sure that we get everything correct. And I had a few questions as I was going through the budget book, and I hope all of you guys went through the book and looked at things that stuck out to you, what you thought seemed like a good place that we can do some trimming. I saw what I first glaring thing is the salary line, and then looking at the salary lines, I looked at the one that where the commissioners had their recommendations for salaries, and they're not the same.
I didn't change them. I was told to put in there what was requested, and then, because you always want to go higher, because I can't go back in there and bump stuff up, so I've left them in there. So what they recommended, it could always be adjusted back down.
Okay.
It's just an advertised.
Yeah,
So
we
either
advertise.
department heads.
You always
That's what the department heads requested. What that commissioner's recommendation, you guys got that on Jamie's spreadsheet as well.
But the state board of
But that
accounts
does-
process says department heads and elected officials fill out a 144, give them to you, you give them to the commissioners, then the commissioners makes a recommendation to council. This,
And that's what
what's
you
in here
did.
is not the commissioner's recommendation to council.
Right, but
Right.
this is the requested budget, not the adopted budget.
Yeah,
So
it's just
you
requested.
You advertise the requested budget.
You advertise high.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
advertise the
Your
requested
left.
budget, and then
We all
the
know
council
what-
takes the,
But everything we sat down and went line for line with every department, is
Mhm.
not in here.
So
It's in Jamie's spreadsheet. No, it
We
wasn't
spent-
for
we spent-
nothing.
We spent 2 days.
That's what I don't agree with.
Well,
We spent all that time talking about it and you don't.
but what I say and what Jamie says, you guys are gonna come together on something. So it wasn't a waste of
That
time.
would mean we
I
would
mean,
have to go
to me, it
line
was
by line
unnecessary
today.
because I'm the one that
But
mentioned that.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah.
Is this also requested?
That is what we
that's the
advertise, yes.
requested budget.
This
Yes.
is the requested as well.
Yes.
Okay. just
That's
making
the
sure.
advertised budget.
Just make
Yeah.
sure.
And then with that, I should pull that one out.
Good.
I didn't claim mine.
I guess one way to look at it is, depending on where we end up at in terms of over levy, keep in mind what the commissioner recommended versus what department head and elected officials recommended. There's $135,000 there.
135,000 increase with your recommendations.
Our recommendation is 135,000 less than what the department heads and elected officials,
On just the salaries you're talking.
just the salary.
That's on salary.
See, I mean, the salaries are always gonna be over. You guys never, because like we talked about before,
Yeah.
people are all over the place as far as
Yeah.
what
Sure
they
are.
Some
recommend.
people wanted 20%.
But as far as the actual budgets within the office, there wasn't anything that they changed necessarily for the elected officials. They did theirs.
Yeah, there's a
Whatever
few
they did on
things.
theirs.
There's a few things in the budgeting part for that I have.
But, I mean, it's those are just general ledgers. I mean, the county
Right.
highway is a huge one and.
Well, first part, working on salaries, then we have to know that we have to be looking at hourly salaries now. Hourly rates on everybody. That is not an elected official.
Is that what you're gonna do?
Yes,
Change everybody?
that's what I believe we're gonna do. We haven't voted on that or anything.
Thought it was only up to a certain dollar. Let's not.
Starts in January at 53.
Thought that wasn't until next month. That was 40 something this year. So we're looking at.
We're looking at
45.
2025, you gotta do
Yeah.
your.
Yeah, it went up to 48, yeah.
July 1st.
That only has to do with overtime. That only has to do with paying overtime, right?
Well, you're considered hourly.
Yeah.
You're considered hourly if you're under
Unless-
53.
Under.
Yeah.
I think I agree with Lisa. It's It's for salaried exempt positions, meaning you're not entitled to overtime. If you're not gonna authorize overtime, then that's the positions that affects. But I would also say that during our reviews and most of the 144s that was submitted, the elected officials asked that their office employees be gone to hourly positions.
So the department heads requested that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah, so no pushback.
Yeah.
Okay.
So salaries are the largest increase that we have here. All right, we need to find out what our real number is that we're going for.
I have not gotten the amounts that Jamie has.
Okay. Oh, you mean his budget requests?
No, I got the budget request, but I don't have the lower amounts. So
Okay.
Should we just work
the
off the
number on the
requested?
spreadsheet is all I have. The requested amounts.
I think the best thing that, well, it's your meeting, not mine.
No, it's our
It's a
meeting.
joint meeting.
It's our.
I think the
meeting.
best thing is just to figure out where we're actually at, and then we can go
That's
from
what I-
there.
Yes, level set, so we know.
What is their number?
The number is on that spreadsheet that I'm aware of.
What
I've,
their
I've
heads.
not changed anything from the original levy worksheet that
Okay.
I sent you.
Now, when the investment revenue is taken back out of that changes how much we're over levy, correct?
I have 400,000 out of that,
Yes.
and we're 47,000 over levy.
Okay. Jamie,
But you put in a loan to offset that 400,000, so even though she took it back out, now you just take the loan back out, and it should be a wash, right?
well,
Does that make
That
sense?
temporary loan is
You
where I
put
took
the
it.
temporary loan
Yeah,
in to
it's where I
offset that
took that back
400,000, so,
so we take that.
but Gail,
That's how I showed it on the spreadsheet.
Gail Rails took that 400 and some thousand back out of the general fund and reinvested it. Is what she told us during our local finance board meeting.
Okay, and that's fine, but it's still, even though it's invested, it has to stay in the cash balance. If you look at the line, it states the cash balance as of June 30th includes cash investments. So I have to leave it in that cash line. Now, if you don't want to appropriate it, then you keep it in the cash operating.
Okay, so
Or
my
you-
opinion
or-
is we shouldn't appropriate it, because the local finance board hasn't approved that appropriation.
And currently, we're not.
Okay,
With that $400,000 loan that I show on that spreadsheet, you are not appropriating 400,000 of what's in the cash balance.
Okay.
Okay?
clear to me, I don't know.
Okay, now on this sheet that you gave us.
Yes.
All of those inflated salaries are in this?
That's the request. Gail has no option but to
Yeah,
advertise.
and that's,
the
I'm okay
request.
with that. What I want to know is how in the world can we request that much more in salaries? Still have our, operating balance, for, the 6 months that you try to have the operating balance for, if you're budgeting correctly. And still not be way over.
I mean, this is it. I mean, I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense.
I put in everything that, well, you see, but I put it in.
I agree, there's no way you're throwing 22% increases into this.
Just being.
If you need 47,000, you know what?
And not have our levy go up so much to where it covered the money. It doesn't make any sense. When, we had to cut out a bunch last year.
And we got little revenue coming from the casino. after
Yeah.
How much is the levy go up?
It was a 4% growth.
Yep.
So looks like, $116,000. So we didn't.
Okay, I've got an answer, I think.
Okay.
So this sheet, I'm just asking Gail. This sheet shows the 400,000 that's invested. It doesn't show the 400,000 that was receipted into the wrong line and is somewhere else.
Yeah, I put it backwards.
So in essence,
We're 447,000
we're
over.
447.
That makes more sense.
Okay, this did not reflect that $400,000 correction that was made after July 1. So now it's reflecting the correction and the investment.
All right. That makes sense.
So the numbers, we are 447,000 over.
That's correct.
Yes.
But that's with the, did you still leave the 400,000 loan for the,
No.
Yes.
Well,
so
yeah.
So what,
if we, so like the very first one you sent out said we were 352,000 under. And then Gail Rail says she put in casino interest of 443, which I think everybody agrees shouldn't have been in there.
right,
So if we're 352 under, you take out the 443. We, and say we never did the $400,000 range. You just take out the casino interest, that gives us 91,000 over levy. I feel like the loan that we put in there is kind of
Yeah.
messing things up, because we didn't know at that time.
But the $400,000 mistake prior to that, or 447,000.
this did not reflect that 443 going elsewhere.
And I think where the confusion may be, if you remember the email Gail Rails sent out, she actually put 800 and some thousand
800 and some
total
thousand.
in there. 420
That's what I
something,
was
four
just,
forty
that was
something.
why I was
Right,
just
but we-
asking her that.
We still
question.
get credit for half of that.
Right, but she put the whole 800 and some thousand.
And I
in
was
there.
only taking the 400 you told me to take out.
But the other 4 goes in credit of investments, because that's general fund.
That
Right,
four
but-
stays in the 400 that you,
All we're doing here, we're not 400,000 over levy. But because you don't want to appropriate it, that's what gets it. Putting that 400 that's reinvested so that it can't be appropriated takes us up to that 4. And if you put the 443, it's actually 490. Over levy.
So we get credit for the 400 that is in general fund,
It's in the cash
in
balance.
the interest. The public investment interest money, we get credit for that, but we don't really because we're not gonna appropriate.
Correct. It's in the cash balance, but it's tagged in a line that you're not going to appropriate.
and I think that number, just to cut up for a sanity check, that number kind of makes sense, because if you look in this budget, based on the headcount increases and salary increases submitted by all the department head and elected officials, that was $510,000 increase on a year-over-year basis. So there's over $500,000 increase requested in salaries and headcount increases.
So taking our investment interest to pay bills like that, that isn't wise investing for your county. That isn't wise at all. So that's why the finance board does not want to use our investment money to pay our bills.
I mean, I understand that to a degree, but we're also shooting ourselves in the foot if we're doing so well that we're able to pull money from general fund and invest it. But then we turn around now, I mean, there's no way we can make $350,000 in cuts.
Well, we can't if we don't try, that's for sure.
No, I mean, I've got a decent amount of cuts to make, but I don't know that we can hit the number. I think that's kind of misleading a little bit because we're actually doing so well, we can invest our money.
Well, we're only doing so well because we're taking our investment money and using it for operating balance. That's what makes it look like we're doing well.
We've
because
been,
we're
we've
taking
been
investment
using
money.
that, we've been using our investment income in smaller increments because it's been in a bank account. Wasn't until Jamie and Lisa and Randy met with Indiana and we found out about Indiana Trust and told Gail Rails to move the money. That's your big difference in investment income. You were getting 60 grand out of millions of dollars from the bank. You move it to Indiana Trust and you get 5%, there's your 400,000. We've lost all that in previous years, and unbeknownst to, I'll say myself, you guys can speak for yourselves. I had no idea we were using investment income at all to pay any bills.
Yeah.
We're off of that trail, hopefully now. We shouldn't use it again to pay us out of this. I agree with that. You don't use your investments to pay those bills, but now we got an issue where we gotta make these cuts. We're not, I would fault to say we're doing so well. I don't think we're doing well at all. This year's been a trying year with everything that's happening through Belterra. And from the last message that we received from John Bond, we're sitting just out there right now until the state decides how much we're gonna get, and we're 2% over the hold harmless agreement, where if all the casinos don't come in at a level, we're where we're at today, we will get nothing from the state.
Add to that, what's happening with rising sun, right? So,
The climate's changing and we need to be proactive and go.
so should we not be looking further down the path and say, what's potentially going to happen there? It's not a done deal, but what potentially may happen there could happen here. And then determine how much money we should have in investments. My understanding from the March meeting is, or maybe it was the April meeting, where Carol said there was approximately $12 million in there, right? Throwing off X dollars of interest. That interest will certainly not cover the $6 million plus $6.5 million you're getting from casino revenue. So you've got levy dollars, revenue dollars that we generate here locally that'll cover essentially 50% of your budget. The other 50% is completely at risk with a neighboring county losing their casino, our county having revenue funds that are on a constant decrease. They're going to be, according to John Bond, almost 600,000 down to prior years, let alone millions of dollars down from prior years. Should we not establish what an investment level should be such that the investment income that comes off of that much larger sum will accommodate the $6 million of infrastructure that we have that we can't afford without the casino revenue? Meaning it really should be $100 million. And I know that sounds a little far-fetched, but should it be that so that you can generate $6 or $7 million of income to cover? So if 3 years from now, the casino says, hey, we're leaving town, we're going to Kokomo. Because if you don't do that, you're going to have 3 years from now turn around and tell these courthouse employees they don't have benefits. The $6 million from our March meeting or $5.5 million from our March meeting that we carve out of that 6 plus and give to all these operational infrastructure items will go up in smoke. So it seems to me you should have a longer term plan versus just planning for 2025. We make decisions today for 2027, 2028, we'll be much better off. We make a decision for just 2025, you could find yourself in a real difficult, I mean, we're not in difficult now.
Yeah.
This is tough, but it could get really tough.
When I look at what usually comes out of the gaming revenue, we need to find, other than the benefits, I would like for the investment money to secure the benefits for our employees, myself. Would be a good goal to have if you had no casino money and you were able to build that nest egg big enough to where it could supply this county with the money to do the benefits on the employees. That would be a good thing. But
It's
emergency
$50
medical
million.
and things like that we take out of casino now, we need to find a way to put that into general fund, in my opinion.
So it's $50 million you gotta have at 5% return to cover your $2+ million of health benefits. And we're sitting at 12.
So I guess with that said, can I get clarification on a couple items? Just to make sure I'm understanding that. Oh, on this sheet you give us, Jackie, down here in the bottom, you got the county general 295 not used. I think I understand that. You didn't put that 295 in the
The
budget.
estimated revenues, correct.
Wastewater utility 25 not used. So that means their total budget was 42. Does that mean you used 17? There were 17 of the general fund in it, but the 25 that you typically put in for casino revenue, you didn't?
That's correct.
Okay.
I did not use any casino money, except in the emergency medical
You
service.
used 300,000. So in addition to the 400 and whatever thousand that we just talked about, there's also 300,000 of casino revenue in here that was assumed is available. You've got Moorfield Bennington sewer that 25,000 of it isn't funded, that it's assumed is going to come from somewhere else. You've got tech building of 50,000 that's assumed going to come from somebody else. And then the medical building is not even in this budget. I don't remember what that number is. Do you? So that's another assumed month. Those are county facilities. The county owns those. They should be all in the general fund.
That's 400 grand, Jim.
Well, I'm at 375 plus whatever that medical building is.
Funds without, you know.
So am I hearing you? What you're talking about is, that's all paid by casino revenue.
It's assumed that it's gonna get paid by casino revenue.
That part. And so what you're saying, which
That's why
I,
the
for
SCE
part
audit,
of this, pay your bills out of, you put where your bills are supposed to be paid out of. So you're telling us you're gonna pass it over to us.
they were before. I mean, SCER has been paid out of general fund. And-
Well, but it was subsidized by casino revenue.
And you weren't for the first 4 or 5 years of existence, at least up until last year, you weren't taking
You'd have to.
the money that was coming in from billing. You weren't taking that. So that's how we ended up having, about 2 years ago or so, we had $600,000 setting as a nest
Might as
egg
well say 30,000.
that was built up from inception 7 or 8 years ago when we started that company, when the county took that company over.
405.
The money that came in
So
from
it's 800.
revenue back from billing
Money.
wasn't taken.
And then there's money to build.
Not 30, you
That's
might
how
as
it
well say
had
30,000.
600,000,
30,000.
now it's down to what, 3 something? And you're saying we're taking that. It's like, well, that was always there in case we had to buy $150,000 ambulances,
But I mean, we get,
$50,000, $60,000 heart
Two from
monitors. If you burn that up, you know, we got nothing. But it was always paid out of general fund because
Other than the 400 that we,
So it
that
pretty much
council would put in from casino revenue. Cause I thought it was 400,000 we put in, not 300. It was 400. Wasn't that right, Lance? Then we did 400 for SER out of casino
It's
revenue.
normally 300, but they were gonna be 100 short last year, so we added another 100 last year only.
Last year.
Yeah, and I think that's partially because we went in and everybody agreed that we raised
Yes.
their salaries.
So
So does that make
let me ask
Tammy's
one more.
400, 500?
Well, let me ask one more question. So you've got the total SCER budget's 1.1 million. You've got 300 casino revenue. Where's the other 825,000 revenue for that coming from?
From their ambulance fees that they collect.
And
from
we think it'll
insurance.
be 800 some thousand. We've never gotten that much.
754 is what I estimated.
754.
It's total, that's with gaming revenue.
Oh, that's with gaming revenue? Oh, yeah, you're right. So it's 400.
And I think what we brought in this year.
Hold on, wait a minute. Their total budget's 1 point.
Yeah, but they haven't been bringing that revenue in.
No, I agree with that
They've
completely.
been
That's
over,
why.
they've been over budget $300,000 for probably as long as I've been on council.
So you're saying the
They had
other
a
tax
huge
base
cash-
is funding that difference?
They had a huge cash balance and they've been eating that up.
Right. Yeah, there used to be around 600 and some thousand cash balance.
But they've never brought in the revenue. that they-
No, I know that.
they did buy a new ambulance though out of that cash balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of that was big.
They have brought in 21,
It's usually around 400 to 500,000
329,000
We're on target.
in
and a
21,
$1.1 million operating budget.
339,000 in 22, 431,000 in 23, and 228 in the first 6 months of this year.
Around 450.
Now, I do think we're going aggressively. I'm not gonna be here that long, but I think we're getting ready to make some steps to aggressively fix some of that. That we can do better with our billing. We may even change billing services, but you can't assume that they're gonna do more than the average 300,000. I think we can do better. We've got some things in motion that
Bug billing. Instead of stop billing.
well, that, we think we can do billing for refusals. There's a flat rate we can charge when people call us out an ambulance.
And then
If
refuse
they
to bill.
treat them, if they do nothing, then you can't. But there is a number that if you treat them, you can charge a base fee. Like you could say, okay, if a normal bill for an ambulance run is $900 to go to the hospital. They go down to a run and they give you oxygen, they bandage your arm, whatever, they treat you in any way. then you say, okay, I'll just go in the car. I think there's a base fee of like, $400 you can charge them. We're gonna look at that, we're gonna look at our regular billing, and we may be changing. We've talked to a couple people that says that we could probably do better with a different billing service and do harder billing.
Lisa, can we go back to whether it's 300,000 or 400,000?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like it's 4,
Well,
but I don't want to assume that.
well, what's on the paper says 300, so for today's work, we're gonna do 300, because last year was the first time we put in an extra 100,000. As Lance said, I always thought it was 400 that we always did, but
Well, we were getting 8 million for casino it was.
yeah.
When we dropped it to 6 million, it went to 300,000.
We gave them 4 in casino last year. Why wouldn't we use 4?
I wasn't aware, I just used the figure that,
Yeah.
that was used in budget time
We
last year.
gave them 4 because 3 wouldn't cut it.
Yeah, I'm not questioning the judgment of
Yeah,
doing
but
it.
it was
I'm just saying what
one-
amount do
why
we
would you-
use? Sounds like 400,000 is the number.
Well, I'm getting a little nervous about, when you take the investment money out and put it where it's supposed to be, we're 490 over levy. And now Jamie's said we really should put the EMS, the wastewater utility, the tech building, and the nurse managed clinic building, and that's another $405,000. Am I wrong on that? Am I?
No, that's right.
And it's only considering 300 grand per serve.
Yes.
Not.
Right, not
Sure,
400.
not 400.
But if you add the 405,000 in there, look how much over levy that
But I
is.
think.
They get the income.
Yeah.
Nurse managed clinic does have income.
It's,
They have income that they
Right.
bring in.
That's
what it-
CER.
I'm talking
No,
about nurse
nurse
managed
managed
clinic.
clinic, to
Nurse
cover
managed
their
clinic.
30,000.
Do what?
Do they have enough to cover their 30,000? Because I thought
Yeah,
that was,
it's close.
Isn't
They
that the
brought
one that
in,
doesn't
so far
fund?
this year, it's 17,320.
Yeah.
In 24, it was.
Yeah, but that,
23,000.
that's not true, because
Where does it go then?
Isn't
It
that the
goes
one
into
that
that
doesn't
account that,
you,
Because-
yeah, let me restate.
Doesn't-
I shouldn't say that's not true. Maybe I don't understand, would be a better way to put it. So the rental income is how much?
I mean, it helps pay for their
Right, but how
utilities.
much is it?
In 23, the full amount was 23,286. This year it's 17,300.
You told me that their budget, or their budget was like
29,700.
29,000 or something.
Yeah, 30,000, you might as well say. So that's what you figured last year, or for this year, I mean.
So then, instead of 30,000 net of revenue, it's somewhere around 10,000, 5,000, whatever. Net of revenue. You said the revenue was 22,000?
23 last year. Mhm.
So instead of this
But
being
you gotta
30,
remember-
it should be 7.
Let's see, you took their utilities from 9,800 to 14,000 for 25, and you also took their repairs, maintenance service from 5,984 to 10,2.
and there was reasons for that, I
Yeah.
can't remember.
I
what
don't
they
know why
were.
the utilities.
Obviously,
are
your
up
utilities
so
are
low.
based on the current run rate.
If we looked at the run rate, how they were tracking, why we increased it, because they were.
And
No,
that's
I don't
fine, let's
know.
just talk about the net, let's just talk about the net, 7,000. So you can take 22,000 off
Yes.
of that number.
can I say one thing in here? As opposed to putting it into county general, then you actually are getting lost in not knowing if it's funding itself. When you keep it in its own fund, you know whether it's funding or not funding. That's my only thing about, if you put emergency ambulance in county general, you really don't know how it is in funding in an easy picture. When it's in a fund all of its own and its revenues going in there, then you do know. If you want to move a tax levy over to that, so tax levy goes in there, that's one thing. I'm just cautioning that you don't have a good picture of just what emergency management is costing you. If you throw it into the general fund, it's then combined with everything else. The revenues are combined with everything.
I would agree with you you're right. We don't have a good picture. We don't have a good picture of what our real bills are. And this casino revenue that he's talking about is now precipitously coming down. We don't know what our real bills are because we've been hiding them. So all these are expenses. Every one of these are expenses. They should be paid by the county as expenses. We just tucked it over into the casino revenue because we've been fat pigs having that money there, and we've never shared it with ourselves or with the general public that these real bills are out there. So to say that we should leave it over there, we don't have any control of what we get.
I don't think she said leave it over there. She just
I
said
know,
leave it in a fund of its
keep
own.
track of it. I agree with that part. You gotta keep track of it. We just simply we don't know what the bill really is.
We keep
Because
track-
we've never taken our bills and put them all in the same pot.
That doesn't make any sense. We keep track of all the other accounts that are under general fund.
Yeah.
It's a ledger right there.
That's what I was
I mean,
gonna say.
whether you're looking at it on this page or that page, you still got the debits and credits.
I mean, you don't want.
You just look at a different page. That doesn't make any sense.
Forward, you don't wanna.
Well, a lot of the other ones in the
always
general fund are just
appropriate.
expenses that are paid out of your, income tax. It isn't a money-making entity. Whereas
So you have the expenses
whereas
in the,
the SER is a money-making entity, so you can actually see if it's paying for itself or not. Whereas the other things that are in the general fund are not money-making entities. They're just expenses that come out of
we're
tax.
certainly gonna keep track of the revenue, right? So you just,
We just pay the bill out of the casino revenue. We don't.
I understand, but if it was in the general fund, you'd keep, I mean, we just rattled off the numbers by year.
Let me
So
ask
we know
this
what the number
question.
is. It's simple.
Did you
addition
use
and
any,
subtraction. It's
did
not
you
difficult.
use any revenue from SCER in this budget?
Yes.
Yeah, you used 400 and some thousand. So you are putting the revenue in it.
There you go.
Not the general fund.
Where's it going? You
It's
use
going
it,
in
It's
the fund
the
of
others,
their,
it's on one.
they have their own fund.
but you're using that as part of the offset of the 1.1 million that they,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
okay, so it's really in there.
It's not in the general fund, it's in the.
I understand it's not in the general fund, but it's in the overall calculation that gives you this bottom line number,
Well,
right?
can the money still be paid out of the general fund for it instead of out of casino revenue without changing it, being in its own fund?
Or maybe I'm misunderstanding.
I think that's how you track it, is you put it back in general, but you track it by having its own line item.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just saying. Jerry.
Yes, sir.
100% agree.
100%.
But why, let me ask you, if we're over levy on general, why would we be putting more stuff in there? You're talking about putting $1 million budget into the general fund, and we're how many thousands over?
I think their
It's always been in.
statement is it should have been in.
No, it's really been in general fund, in one sense of the word, it's really been in general fund,
It's getting away from relying on the casino revenue.
yeah. And I mean, really, it's been in general fund, it's just
This
calculated
is the
on its
very
own.
first time, Lance, that I've ever, in my mind, listening to this, that I considered the lit tax for SER.
Well, yeah, I mean, when
And,
you,
because it really should be paid in the general fund. It should not be, because we need to get away from casino revenue at all. And I'm not a tax anybody person, but hearing this and looking at these numbers, it makes me consider that possibility. I wish there was a way for the voters to vote for it, for people to vote in the county for it, instead of us just wielding that hammer down on them that you are gonna pay more lit tax to cover SER. I wish that
That's what they elected us for.
when you did
I
the
know,
budget,
but I
was it last
well,
year?
you can't do it
before
this year.
last?
You pay
Yes,
nothing
you
in
can.
taxes in this county.
You can't do it this year. It
Yes, you
has to be, I thought it was too late.
Oh, no, you have till
When y'all did
1st
the
of
emergency
November. You have till
service
31st of October to.
increase.
To do it. I thought we had to do it by October.
Everything went to the sheriff's
Do you think
office,
the
everywhere
taxpayers
else.
are gonna vote to raise their taxes?
If they thought, well, everybody says, well, they don't even notice it. Well, some people notice it, but they say they don't even notice it, but they, if they want to have any emergency services, and we've got, I mean, it's a huge expense, and we need to get away from expecting casino revenue to pay all these things, because we may not have that forever.
This
And,
may not,
and the only way to quit spending that casino revenue on things that our taxes should be paying for. And so we can put it into a nest egg, so it can build enough, so that it can cover the health insurance down the road
At a minimum.
at a minimum. And some other things, you have to save it long enough for it to be big enough to make a difference. And we have not been able to do that because we've given it away. Every year we give it away, and we've never, ever allowed it to accumulate. And that's where our mistakes have been.
And that doesn't mean in the near term that you won't use the funds, because the reality is we'll have to use them.
Well, you have emergencies.
Exactly. We'll have to use the funds to cover where there's a shortfall on the levy. But having a process and having a goal and having objectives and setting up the structure so you're marching towards an end game of being self-sufficient, I think, in my opinion, is critical.
is it not a reasonable way of thinking, especially considering what we know now about Rising Sun, that we should say, okay, here's what it costs to run this county based on everything we have today. And that's that, you add the 900,000, that's like $9.9 million if I'm looking at this spreadsheet correctly. Taking out the employee health benefits, okay? We've not even talked about them, but 9.9 million is what it costs to run this county. We've got basically 8.1 million of revenue to fund that 9.1 million or whatever it is. So your true deficit is 1.1 million. If the casino went away today, you'd be short 1.1 million.
Jimmy, I agree with you, but I don't think you can just set the benefits aside.
No, I don't think you can either,
So
but
we should include it in the.
but
numbers
as of
so that
right
the
now,
public
we have.
understands It's really
What
almost,
are your real bills here?
It's
What's
12
our operating costs?
if it's 9.9, it's really 12.5
It's
million.
about 12 million. Yeah.
So if it's $12 million, we should keep saying $12 million, so the public knows it's $12 million. And then we should talk about our true revenue number, taxes, lit, all in, what can we cover on our? And then the public knows, we have
And
this
then you
much
work
operating
towards
costs,
that,
we have
and you
this
know
much
it's gonna
revenue.
take some time for that to work towards
Bingo.
that. It isn't something that's gonna happen this year. It isn't gonna happen next year, maybe the year after that, but it's something that you have to work towards, that true number, that what you really need.
Bingo.
And in the back of your mind, to continue to invest money in the Trust Indiana that pays the most, hopefully that stays that way. And I don't know, that was there always a Trust Indiana, Jackie, or is that just something that come along with Daniel Elliott?
Oh, no, Trust Indiana's
always
been
been there.
around.
But it
for-
used to not pay near as good as it does
Well,
now.
nobody did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's paying well because of the interest rates.
Yeah.
When the interest rates go down, it won't
Yeah,
pay
it won't-
the
That
5%.
money wasn't being, and,
I mean, it's
forgive
just
me
like
as well. I
Okay.
think it's just-
Is everybody in consensus about that we would like to work towards paying our real bills out of our real property
So-
tax? Because we really need to talk about the
Now-
SDR, and that
I'm just, I feel like we have, Lisa, we've come a long way in the last 4 years.
we have.
We
Well, we paid
That
off-
number down there, the gaming revenue, 295, did not use, it used to be what, 700? I'm going back 4 or 5 years ago, we had to have it. So we got the
We
sheriff's
also
deputies
didn't have
off.
$1 million cash operating balance.
We had
Yeah,
zero.
and we got the sheriff's deputies off of there, and we've worked that number.
When I
Now,
came
the
down
others,
here, we didn't have cash operating, we had about 50,000.
the 25,
$7 million in debt.
the 25 from Moorfield Bennington, the 50 to the tech building, we didn't even, those haven't changed in years. We didn't mess with those, because those weren't really low hanging
Yeah,
fruit.
and you was getting 8+ million in casino revenue too, so let's, if we're gonna talk about that, let's talk about the real picture, the whole picture. You was getting 2 million more in income.
Doing this, I mean, we're not, this isn't the first day for it.
No, no.
But I guess the reason I didn't include the 2.5 million of benefits is because when I do the numbers, and just to tell you where I'm at, if I do the numbers, to me, using the additional 100,000 of SCER, we're $900,000 over levy. That's 10% of that total operating budget. As far as I'm concerned, you can throw in the 2.5 million. You can't go back and ask people to cut 25%, but there's no reason why you can't go back and ask people to cut 10%. The way I look at it right now, we're about 10% over levy at $930,000. To me, this meeting's easy. We go back to everybody and say, look, you need to submit a new budget that cuts 10% of your operating costs.
And I can agree with that. And we make it non-negotiable, because the reality is there's still millions of dollars at risk that are wholly reliant on the casino funds.
Yes.
And we share that communication as well. Because Lance, I agree with you. I think based upon what I've learned, short 4 or 5 months, I think the council and the commissioners, and not everyone's gonna agree with each other's decisions, certainly the public's not gonna agree with all our decisions. You all have made a ton of headway.
Absolutely.
So what was a $7 million debt situation years ago, and now you have essentially zero debt. So kudos to the team for getting that done. So I think great job. We just also have to lean into the reality of what the future is, that's all.
Not only $7 million, we're also 4.5 in the rainy day fund too.
Yeah,
That's $11 million.
That's great. That's great.
And there's no question that your cost was going up at the same time.
I just think it's absolutely crazy that we've decided here in September. In September, we've decided we're just gonna head off the snake. I mean, we've slowly worked our way there. We are getting there, but we're just gonna do it all today.
No, don't say that at all.
We're gonna ask everybody to cut 10% to get so everything's covered.
No, that don't cover 2.5 million of health benefits.
It comes to 15%. It's just like, I don't know.
And then I wanted to talk to, because council's the ones that do the lift tax. I wanted to talk with you guys after hearing this. What's your opinion of that? I am the most anti-taxing person in the whole.
I'm not at all. We don't pay any taxes in the state
Yeah.
of county. We don't pay any
We
taxes,
don't, we don't pay compared to others. I know we
not
don't.
anywhere close.
So what's your feelings of that? If SEER is moved into the general fund, which I fully believe it should be.
Yeah.
It has to be a way to fund it. We don't have the money to fund that. So what's your feelings on that? How do you feel about that? I've never ever thought about that before. I was very passionate about getting salaries out of the casino revenue. That's the reason for the public safety tax for the sheriff's department.
What's the current lead rate got reused for the sheriffs, what we're doing now? That's
Quarter
4%.
Quarter percent.
Well, but
How much does that generate?
how do we figure out what it goes to?
I knew.
Lance, can you recall what your numbers were?
Yeah, they have-
Clarification on that. What was?
If
I
we-
thought Gail told us during our meeting,
if we-
200-some thousand.
If you decide how much.
240,000,
right?
Like, for instance, we do a 500,000 on the sheriff's department, on the public safety.
Nobody wants to do
2
it,
cents
but-
on the dollar.
Gary, I'm sorry.
But I was thinking the current
Yeah, it would generate
quarter
about
percent, then you, I was thinking it was like
Which
240,000.
covers, yeah.
It brings in,
Jackie helped
Yeah,
us with
it
that,
brings in that
I'm
year.
lucky.
but we also want to stop calling it lit tax, because that's.
and it would
we're not
help
doing
fund
lit tax,
itself.
right?
It's a lit
And I still say keep
SER.
it in its.
Yeah, but if you do lit,
Put it
you gotta
in the
include
levy.
BB and pay.
Don't combine it with county.
Not for
If it's public safety, you do.
That one.
If it's SCR, there's different taxes.
Yeah, it's a different
But
tax.
it's still all called lit.
That would be in the levy.
Yeah, it's local income tax,
Yeah.
but it's a
I
special.
just wanna make sure that we're
So
using.
yeah, oh shoot, the
Part of the levy.
state even, there's even a tax you can do to pay for your judicial costs.
I'm looking for
There's a judicial tax that we can impose another tax on people's wages, which I hate. I hate that.
Getting back to the
But
tax,
we have to pay for the SER in the general fund somehow.
Well,
we get back to the taxes and everything like that. And,
that. It's a EMS.
so like Moorfield Bennington. For some reason, I can't find it in this, but it's in this book somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's under the commissioners.
It's under the commissioners, it's like
No.
the.
One of the, close to the back, if I remember right.
I guess what I'm getting at is like, did we get all the sewer rates adjusted? Are they,
We've never changed them that I know of. It's
I thought we did a study.
$35 or
30.
$50,
It's page
30.
It's page 91 of 90.
Yeah, they've never been changed as long as I've been a commissioner.
Maybe what?
91 on what?
You might be thinking about East Enterprise, which we don't own East Enterprise. They adjusted their rates, but we've never adjusted
Just
it.
don't understand, I guess if we're gonna do this, I really think we need to spread it wide, and the sewer place should be self-sufficient. Other than large projects, they should be self-sufficient. So if it costs this much money to run Moorfield Bennington should be paying that much. I don't believe people in Beebe and Patriot should be paying for Moorfield's sewer. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I don't know how many people's on Bennington, or excuse me, on Moorfield, but Bennington is,
Right.
Bennington has 25 people. Let's just assume there's 25. That'd probably push their sewer about 100 a month, assuming they pay it. But a lot of people don't pay it.
Shut off their water. We gotta work out something with Patriot Water.
Yeah.
too.
What's the
You can't-
history of how we ended up taking over Moorfield Bennington? Because that was a private entity, right?
No.
Well,
The county put those two
the county
in.
did it.
Because everybody's shit was running over the hill.
Okay.
Isn't that part of the project that we paid?
The Bennington project, the
That would be off of our,
$750,000 project.
that'll be off of our hands.
Okay.
Fertile ground.
That's true.
And then, what was the other one I was gonna ask you about, this we were talking about? I can't remember. You know,
Tech building.
Doc Finley's office, is it still sitting vacant?
To my knowledge, yes.
Or we, I don't even know who would be in charge of pushing and rent that out, but I mean, that's,
I mean, we can,
that's lost revenue.
He's
right?
tried.
we can potentially rent it out.
Something
We,
he's tried.
he had asked us originally to hold off renting it because he was trying to get a dentist in there. And I think that obviously we need a dentist. But he did later come back and say he's exhausted all of his efforts, relative to trying to get someone in there. Now, I did get a card and I haven't acted on it. I probably got it 4 to 6 weeks ago of a office in Columbus, Indiana that's looking to locate or put offices in other counties where none exist today. I just haven't had time to as an excuse, but I just haven't had time to
I don't actually know who, like,
talk to them.
are the commissioners in charge of renting that out, or is there somebody, I didn't know if there was. And then the other one is like the tech building, how many offices are sitting empty there now, that 101's gone?
There's at least 2 upstairs where they were renting. Well, it's one bed.
Jim, why don't we give that card to John Bond?
And then there's one downstairs.
Well, I think it'd be more, probably redevelopment, right?
Maybe he'll jump right on it.
Wouldn't that be redevelopment? Because economic development, new establishments, right?
Right.
Redevelopment is.
But we did now, just one little touch is that
Discuss.
when we rented recently the offices, and when we rented it to the engineers, we did make sure that money was coming from those rentals to pay the utility stuff, which wasn't being done before.
Yeah.
So we're like, hey, no, this money needs, some of this rental money needs to start going.
But there's more options out there.
It needs to stop.
Lisa, does it make sense, because you got Jamie, I think Andy and Lance, and I'm all kind of in a similar position. I don't know anyone happy about the 10%, but the reality is at least it's a step in the right direction. It doesn't get us all the way home.
It's a giant step.
It is a giant step.
It's a giant step, but I absolutely love the idea of throwing it back to the department heads to make the cuts and us not doing it for them.
I mean, even-
I feel like we've done the job every single year. We've done it ourselves. And it always makes us the bad guy, basically, because we've done the cuts. And, I don't like that. I would like for them to make their cuts. They know where their overages are,
So for example,
because we don't run their department. They do. I mean, that's staying in your own lane,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, they've made it clear they'd like us to stay in our lane and they could have their lane. They're the budget managers. I think 10% is a reasonable amount. We're still gonna have to come back after their 10%.
All right.
And then we're gonna have to ask the commissioners if we can use their revenue
To cover the balance.
so how does somebody like the surveyor cut 10%?
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
May not.
Make no mistakes.
But
He cut 10% on his salary.
There you go.
I don't think you can,
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Take it.
not by.
He
his own
didn't
office.
even ask for a raise. He hasn't asked for a raise the last 2 years.
I know. We
Yeah,
keep giving him
He,
that.
he makes
I mean-
double what every other surveyor does.
I don't know. I've never.
And we keep giving him the raise.
So we're
Well,
not
now,
gonna go
look,
over
It's
this
like somebody's
today?
salary told me.
We're not gonna go
But
over
they are
this today?
pretty high.
They pay for all their
Is he a
equipment,
registered
stuff out there.
surveyor?
I don't know.
He doesn't
if
charge
Brian-
anything for all the equipment he uses.
I don't know if Brian is a registered.
He works. He is not.
Technically, you're supposed
He's
to
not.
provide an amount.
We're no doubt.
He's a registered
There's some of
surveyor,
them that aren't gonna be
No, he's
Yeah.
not.
But they cut some of them.
No,
He's
he's
gonna
not.
cut stuff.
So he's not, and he makes
I
double.
think the only stuff they cut is salaries. I mean, that's the only thing they cut is
Technically,
salaries.
we're supposed to be providing an amount.
Well,
They make that
with the
decision about their
22% and
salary.
25%, some of them are 28% salary increases in here. They're not gonna have
We're
any
gonna
trouble
be
at all.
the sheriff's department. We're gonna be the bad, I agree with that. We're gonna be the
Zero.
bad guy.
My question is, are the commissioners gonna be able to find 10%? Because their bids and budget's the largest.
So we're gonna go over these today?
I don't know.
I thought
You
that's
need a
why we were
motion? What do
here
you
and I
need,
had
Lisa?
Jackie.
We're still deciding. Well,
decide
Jackie
what-
helps us know what number we're targeting for.
What number is that again?
10%.
No.
No, no.
Oh, what her number?
Okay, so now let's go back to this 10% here.
I've got 872.
Since Gail's right here, if we ask Gail to cut 10% off of this right here, she can either cut salaries, she can cut off supplies, or she can cut dues.
And I can't cut dues because they were 793 and 20.
I just don't know where your 10% comes.
It's,
What were you putting in for people?
Jackie,
I would say-
20% increase.
what's our number again? What-
490.
So you're saying cut 10% with the numbers I'm looking at right here?
Total budget.
yes, that's what it says.
Well, that ain't gonna be no damn problem, because these salaries are inflated.
Yeah.
But,
But they want us to cut their salaries so that they would do.
oh, that's fine.
They go back and cut their own salaries.
I don't have a problem with that.
Because every time we do that,
We
we're
want-
bad people.
But they need to have to say on where the cut is, not us.
You need to be realistic. This shit, put a 23% increase in it.
You can cut a salary, or you can cut a head.
Yep.
If you have a department that could run with one less body, then you run with one less body. Or everybody takes the haircut on salary.
Again,
But isn't it
I would
the council's responsibility to say, okay, this is what we're gonna make the raises for? And it doesn't matter if you come and tell me that you're only getting 3% for each one of your employees. I mean, that's what it's gonna come down to. Whether I go upstairs and say, okay, you guys aren't getting your 8%, you're only get 3. They'll be like, I'm like, well.
Or we give you 3% and you decide who gets it. So that
Okay,
3% on
1% for
100.
everybody
You
in
can't
there.
do
Or
that.
you give one person 3 and the other 2 zeros because one person is doing the majority of the work or the
She
most,
can't,
the
she
best
can't
work.
do that. The county council has to set the salary.
Yeah, I tried that a long time ago.
Yeah,
Jack
county
shot me down.
council.
They set the salaries, but they still go off the recommendations because that's what's in the proposal to begin with.
I understand that, but it's the office holder can't set a salary for her employees. County council has to set a salary.
But she recommends it.
She make a
She
recommendation.
makes,
Okay,
she makes,
you guys
she
come
makes a
back and-
request,
So,
but she
so
doesn't.
I recommend
So
you
then the
cut 10%
recommendations
out of your budget.
for the best-
You decide where you're cutting it
And
out
bring it
at,
back to us.
and then bring it back to
Yeah.
us and we'll do it.
There you go.
We would have a better picture, I think, the salary recommendations would have been in there.
It is what it is. I mean,
All right.
And
I'm
what,
with it.
let me clarify, because I was in the
Yeah.
meetings with you guys, and you guys came back with 8%, 7%, and so on and so forth. So you were all over the place
We
with
was all-
your recommendations. So, but it comes back to them, what can you afford to give us as a raise this year?
No, Gil, I mean, I
And
understand.
then we say, okay, 3%.
We're not willing to
fine.
give
Then
you
we
a
go through
raise at
there.
the same rate that we've always done before. I don't think the courthouse people are as much as, and this is gonna sound terrible, but I would rather fund the sheriff department, the safety, more than what we're funding the group that doesn't work 40 hours. I would rather fund the group that puts their life at risk more than fund the person that sits in the air conditioning office. We've never done it that way.
It's that always.
You
That's
want
what we talked
one
about
straight,
last
everybody here
year.
wants one straight budget. That is not how it works in real life.
but I tell you how you answer Gail's question. You look at her budget, you've got a budget of $199,500. I need you to cut $19,500.
There you go.
That's the easy answer.
There you go. That's being a budget manager.
That would drop your deputy auditor, your payroll clerk, and your deputy 2. down to
And myself.
42
You guys-
Down to 42.9 if she did not touch her own salary.
You want to tell us when you're
That
gonna
would
work, you
be-
want to tell us how you're gonna work, you want to tell us what you're gonna get paid, but you want all this stuff and you still want us to fund it at these. If you did that, then you would have thought about that when you put in for a 19% increase. You didn't do that. You gave it to us like this. Well, now you go back and tell
Okay.
us. I don't care if you want to work 34 hours, work 34 hours.
Can I play devil's advocate for 5 seconds here? And I did not say that I believe this or not, but I will tell you if, and not that I agree with this at all, but they will tell you, or whoever, if you don't want to put your life on the line, you can go get one of the courthouse jobs. You know,
Hey, the courthouse is not, there is no security in this
You miss it.
courthouse. So if you've ever been in one of these offices
agree.
when somebody comes down after they've been upset for whatever reason they've been in court.
Right.
So, I mean, we come in here every day. There's no security or anything. For all we know, somebody could be sleeping down here.
I agree with that.
So, I mean, yes, the police officers I have the utmost respect for them.
But yet you're
But-
likening your security situation to theirs.
I don't have anything that anybody knows of on me.
They put themselves in harm's way every day. That's
So do I
ludicrous.
when I
statement.
walk in here.
It's actually offensive.
No, it isn't. I mean,
Yes,
they
it
are
is.
putting, they're
Not
not
more
pulling
than
people
you.
over, but when I walk in here,
I think we're off track a little bit.
yeah, we are.
All right, yeah, I want to give you some
So-
numbers here. A 1/4% SCER tax on someone that makes 50,
2/10% is the most you can do.
what's
How much?
Well,
2/10%.
Is the most you can do.
2.2%.
0.02.
0.02, which is 2 cents on a dollar.
It's 2/10%.
Okay,
$1,000 on somebody making
the
50,000.
same one, okay.
It's not that high.
Or,
Yeah, no,
what did y'all pass year before
Yeah.
last?
I've got it, a spreadsheet of somewhere.
Security services didn't get any.
All right, that's not very much money then,
$100.
a year.
That's what it is.
So the most you can do is 0.02%.
Didn't you do a quarter?
It's
Quarter?
2/10.
It's 1/4% public safety, it goes towards the sheriff's deputies. To get them off casino payroll.
It's 5 people.
So you're saying you can't do
So
a
if you
quarter
made $50,000.
It's .002.
SCE?
I can tell you,
And then, yeah, oh, absolutely, you can, you can.
That's what it-
Crawford County passed this last year at 2/10% brought them in $440,000.
Yeah.
How do they rank
Just
number? I mean, Getting pretty close.
But I'm just saying,
County,
Uh,
they're bigger than us, is that what you're asking?
Crawford County,
They're
but they're
little
poor.
bigger. Yeah,
So are we.
All right. If you did a 0.02%, $50,000 a year job, this is a SER tax. That's $100 a year. $100 a year, some people, is a lot of money. It's $8.32 a month or $2.08 a week. So that's what would be to find a way to fund SER with our public and not take it out of casino revenue.
Well, that'll fund part of it.
Well, that'll fund the part that comes out of casino revenue.
No, it won't.
What was the annual amount?
I think it will by the time you,
I think we were
because-
told that like the current lit or safety tax brings in like $240,000.
yeah, when it's a 1/4% brings you $125 a year per person. So it's not much different.
Taxpaying person.
Tax-paying person, yes. If you make $50,000 and you pay a 1/4%, it's gonna be $125.
But 240 doesn't equal
$50,000 salary.
400.
So the more you make, the more you're gonna pay, of course. But just to use the average to make it easy, math, $50,000 a year, if you're, right now, they're paying a lit tax $125 a year, or $2.60 a week. And if we do the SER tax, it'll be $2.08 a week for every person making $50,000. You make less, you pay less.
What's the annual number that'll bring you?
$100 a year. Well, the annual, I don't know. Right, with the 1/4%, where they pay $125 a year for a $50,000 salary, brings in $480,000 to us.
Well, that's not saying, I just asked, if you could do that for emergency services and then use it for a CER.
That's a big stretch for me, but I'm seeing the writing on the wall that we need to get everything out of casino revenue that we possibly can. Have that casino revenue invested, build a nest egg big enough to make a difference for this county long-term. That's my goal. That's what I see by seeing what's happening in neighboring. And I think we need to do it sooner rather than later. And if we have to find a way to get SER out of casino revenue, this is one way to do it.
I mean, I think.
Even though I hate it.
I think it's just as important to have an ambulance come to hurt as a sheriff's deputy coming. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I
but
150,000% support the sheriff's office.
It's public safety. I understand that, but I also don't like the way that our SER
You know, we
uses
got a
the
bag.
band-aid
It's
station.
like
And
right
they
now,
go to somebody at least 3 times a week, give them aid, and we make not a dollar from it.
They have to respond.
Same with the
I know.
thing, we can start charging for those.
Yeah, yeah, we just
We do.
change the back end of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Agree with that one, Tim?
you know, and
You
I'm
make
sure,
$13,000 by $200 an acre for corn around.
I can tell you that there's buku calls that
It's a great idea.
the sheriff
That is a great
deputies
idea.
respond to and may spend 45 minutes
Jump on
dealing
to
with an
the-
argument, and you don't make a dime either.
All right.
Yeah. So,
As far as the department heads,
How much do we pay him? They're saving.
Yeah.
We're not bringing in any business.
we're off. How do we agree to kick it back to them, cut 10% from your budget, and we'll see if we can get rid of everything that quickly.
I
And have
just
them
did
do the
on
work.
mine. I just did on mine since everybody's about the salaries, so
Yeah.
I gave everybody 3%.
And that took away what you needed.
Yep,
See how easy that is? But we
Well,
let every department
that's why
head
we
decide
should have
that.
had the department heads down here, I guess. I mean, I took out 29,000. I gave everybody a 3% raise.
If it was that quick and that easy, every single one of them should be able to do it and have it to us by Tuesday.
So,
I think your comment's kind of ridiculous. That's why you should have had everybody down here. You
They
should have
should have.
submitted a reasonable budget
I
to begin
did.
with.
I felt like everyone needed an actual raise, a good raise. I mean, 3% is not gonna be nothing for what you just
I'm
said
not
the
saying
cost
people
of
didn't
everything.
deserve a raise, but 22 and 26%.
I didn't base, you were basing it off of 40 hours. I was basing it off 36, which is what everybody.
I'm gonna make this easy. I'm gonna leave because I got something else I gotta get done. I'll be one less person that's trying to interfere, unless you absolutely need me to be here. I'm
do we
gonna
need,
go
do we need a vote?
Leave.
I mean, I'd like you to not leave before we vote.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that they can vote on
Yeah, I don't.
Okay,
kicking it back. I think that's a council thing.
okay. Just strictly.
But didn't you want to talk to them about their budgets?
We'll go back and
No,
tell,
it's
come up with
their
our 10%.
department, it's their budget is what they.
That's what you tell me to do.
They're gonna be told to take 10% out of their budget, and that will fix our budget problems.
What does that ever get to a 10%?
Huh?
Well, how much is
That takes 900,000 out of your, takes off 900,000.
Hold on, we're combining too much stuff.
Yeah.
This isn't, we gotta do general fund, we gotta do, I mean, SCER is its own thing, highway department's its own thing, because the money sources come from different places. We can't combine these things.
It's the general fund that we're cutting. It's the general fund that's over.
Okay, so
But emergency ambulance doesn't fund.
Yes.
I just want to point one thing.
CR.
Your $250,000, I mean, your 1/4% public safety brings in $509,000 a year. Now you have to share that with others. You would not the EMS. So that 2/10 is going to be somewhere around that $450,000 that I said Crawford County's getting.
It gets us halfway.
But it gets the
But
300.
it doesn't, you guys are combining things you shouldn't be combining.
Well, you're assuming that the commissioners are going to, he's telling you, he's pushing those dollars back over to
Yeah,
us.
don't assume that you've got
You're
that
assuming
casino
you
revenue.
can tell him.
No.
Commissioners are gonna have to vote on that, but until you tell me what I need to give you, then we'll make that decision.
That they were
I
talking
understand
about.
what you're
But
talking about.
Lance is talking about the
What we
casino
cover the
revenue.
real cost out of casino revenue, you're assuming they're gonna continue with that.
You just need
That's
to
what
leave
you're
the doing
assuming.
of a Mountain Dew.
He's saying, I'm not gonna
You
do
just
that,
need
we're
to leave
passing
the
it all
Mountain
back to
Dew.
you.
Well, you either shut it down or you raise taxes. That's your only choices for them. That's what I've been saying all year. I mean, I don't know.
I'm just saying, you should know what your real bills are, it shouldn't be using a fund that keeps going down, down, down. This is the predicament.
Lance,
for it.
until we come in here and I hear I want the casino revenue put in the general fund, I never was ever in any kind of agreement of having any tax for our public at all until today. This is the first time that I've come to the realization that we must find a way to fund SER in the general fund.
It won't be in the
It
general
won't
fund.
be in the general.
It'll be its own thing,
Yeah.
but it takes it out of casino revenue. That's what I want to do. I want that casino revenue invested for long-term security of Switzerland County.
So that is what you're gonna vote
That
on
takes-
now?
That takes care of
They still
SCER.
get to decide what to do with the casino revenue anyway,
Well,
but
we're not-
that would be my goal.
If, for the SCER, you're gonna have the 1151, which is their regular fund, their operating budget, and then you're gonna implement the lit tax at 0.02, 0.2%.
Yeah.
That'll be something just like it is now that goes into that fund
Yes. It's a
monthly.
lit fund, yeah. It has to be by itself. Now,
Right,
if I remember correctly, did the commissioners have to create that fund?
No.
Because I thought we had to go through a
No.
process where they created the
Well,
fund
you-
in order for us to put the money in.
No. When you create the lit tax, it creates the fund.
It creates the fund. I want opinions, fellas.
Because
And
it's
I
already
think that
established.
solves the SCER problem.
That's a big one.
But it doesn't touch the 490 that we're over.
No,
In
we're
general
talking
fund.
The
about
I mean, I-
10% cuts from the from the department heads touched
Yeah,
that.
I think that if you go back to the department heads, you go back,
But
you look for your
that's-
10%.
those are the two different things that we were kind of combining. I'm trying to keep them separate.
If you vote now,
So-
do the
Lit tax.
lit tax, emergency tax, to
Emergency
take care of
services tax.
SCR, that helps take care of that
Anybody
damage.
think about
That's one thing.
Our taxes are too cheap.
And then secondly,
Wayne, I'll tell you.
across the board votes to tell everybody to cut 10% out of their books
How do you
and
feel
come
about
back,
emergency
next week.
services tax?
About right, yeah.
right?
We kind of discussed, a little bit this year already about.
86,000.
Eric?
I'm in favor.
86.
It makes sense. I mean, it's gonna have to happen.
It's gonna have to happen eventually.
Do that or don't have it.
You
And
need
then-
that
But
service.
it still doesn't, it doesn't
Yeah.
take care of,
It doesn't take care of everything,
It
but it
doesn't
takes
take care
care
of
of that
the
300,000 that's coming out of the casino.
there's still gonna be a debit there with that.
Of several $100,000. You're still way short.
But it helps.
But it's a start.
so did someone make a motion to do that?
I'm getting ready to call. and after.
And it would stay, are we in agreement, it would stay in its own, 1151?
It has to stay in its own fund.
Yeah, if you create that lit tax, it'll have to stay in its own.
It has to
fund.
stay
They get all the funds.
So it's only used for SER.
Right.
Jackie, does
You would
this have to be?
you would have two funds.
Yeah.
You would have
One for-
1151, which is where the revenue from the
Well,
insurances and what come in. And you would have 11,
It's
1235,
1170.
no, it's 1235.
Public safety.
It's not
1235,
public safety,
okay.
it's EMS
That's what I'm
lit.
saying.
It's 1235 or 1236, that's established by the state. And that's where the lit revenue would come, and you would budget between the two.
Which is, that one's already there, you're saying, we just don't use it, 1235, we don't,
1235 is set by the state, and when you adopt an EMS lit, that's the fund you're
that's what we're
using.
using, but, yeah. correct.
Jackie, does it have to be unanimous?
We don't have to get Patriot and BB's on board.
No,
Is
it's
it gonna-
only for SER, which
It's a stand-in job.
Patriot and Baby use it as emergency services, just like us, so with
And
all, it goes in one fund.
If you want to use property tax dollars over in SEC, you can put a rate on it. You can take your levy and spread it out. Keep it out of county general and know what you're spending there and is it funding. You can put levy. You can put a tax rate for EMS, a property tax rate also, which would go in then to 1151. And
I
not
feel better
combine it, and
I
not
feel better
combine
doing
it so that
the-
you can see the true picture
Income,
of that.
because if you make a little, you pay a little, you make a lot, you pay a lot. To me, that's a more fair way to do it than to put it on property.
And it also
Personally.
spreads it out on everybody, including the non-property
And
owners.
everybody's got to buy in.
Okay, can I ask one more question before we vote? Do we have a commitment from Jerry that you will work towards cleaning up billing so that these
absolutely.
every week offenders who are calling for Band-Aids and then stiff the county,
I will even
that
work
you will
on it
change that
after.
process?
Yes,
No,
I've got
it's for
some-
3 months.
Yeah,
That's all right. I'll work on it after I'm out.
I mean,
They've
I've got
had a
some
meeting
things
with
in
Emily
process.
already about that.
I'm talking
Yeah, they had
to
a meeting
a
about,
couple of
Okay.
good
With Emily
people.
I just wanted to hear it on record, that's all.
There's also another
I will even work
collection.
on it after I'm not in office.
we need to start hard billing.
Because
There's also another
I'm
collection
dedicated
process.
to
And I'm in favor.
that service.
Jackie,
Go ahead, Jackie.
DLGF says it has to be unanimous vote by the council,
For,
lit taxes.
Well, for lit it does, but not for SER. Right, it's up to SER.
You're asking for a lit tax
Yeah.
paid SER.
Is that the same?
it has to be, I've never heard that it has to be a unanimous vote.
I had somebody ask me, is there a way to find out the rent cost for families all the states?
somebody that doesn't agree.
Just so you know that, I will pass that along with you.
I think this is gonna help SCER.
Who did you get that from, Matt?
DLGF.
Which,
It says, council on a lit tax, it must be 100% unanimous on the bill. Why does it say that?
I-
mean,
I don't know, I was
so
just
let's
wondering,
call up,
no, I just was
You're
wondering
reading
who
the code.
got it, who sent it to you.
DLGF.
I know, but
Go under
somebody,
lit tax under DLGF.
You know what I mean?
What their
Just look up the
recommendations
DLG
are.
website.
oh, okay.
It could happen.
It's gonna take them.
I
just don't
have never
want
heard
this
that.
And find out we're gonna go right back to casino revenue. If you're gonna commit to putting the bills where they're supposed to be, then that makes sense to me. I don't run a budget like this where you don't know, and to fund it with an account that is going down. That's gonna get you in more trouble than you know.
Man, I don't think anybody disagrees with you. The issue is if you don't,
I get that.
you're not gonna have
But
emergency
you have to have
services.
commitments over here because we assume, and I'm saying this again, the assumption here is the commissioners are going to pay for what they've been paid for. We shouldn't have been doing it that way to begin with, and we don't have the authority to assume that the commissioners are going to do that. The president of the commission basically just told us, I'm shifting all these dollars over to you. So we really do have to take care of it. I like the idea. If you want to go that way, you'll get my vote. I'll vote for the lid tax, but I'll also vote that you commit that all this goes back to get your 10% back from the budget managers that created all these increases, and then we start that process.
I think that's where we're headed.
He's right, there's 10%, and they're saying, there's people out there that can't cut 10%. I agree with you, Andy.
Auditor's office.
Are they in the general fund?
No raising and salary.
Services in general fund,
Do what?
auditors in general.
It's 3% raise. It's a 3%.
She already cut.
She's already
it.
done
She
the math.
done it easy.
I've already done the math.
Your budget's.
I think that's what you're doing, yeah.
I did. On the notes.
Everybody agrees to-
Then I'll,
Right, you had raises.
but I can get behind that. I just said I'll get behind it.
Okay,
Second
first,
thing is look for the 10%.
I would entertain a motion to, have our overage of our levy taken care of by the department heads. To have them cut 10% from their budgets by Tuesday, have it back to us by Tuesday to see if that covers everything in the general fund. And let the department heads decide where the cuts are and not us.
Given discussion after this.
I didn't make the motion. I just would like,
Oh, you're asking.
I would entertain someone making a motion with that.
I just don't, yeah, I got a couple questions.
Yes,
So,
go right ahead.
so your budget's 199, 449.
Mhm. I just come up with 173,297. If I give myself and my 3 deputies a 3% raise.
173?
That's with the 3% raise.
But your budget this year is 174.
And if she just cut that 10%.
Right, so you're gonna go down, which,
Well, you gotta, my payroll deputy is getting paid a lot more than my other 2 deputies. So I'm taking that person back to, I fixed their starting salary at 38. I took them back down to 39,826, so that's $5,000 right there.
That's what I do.
I mean, this, I guess a couple of things bother me about it. One is like not all departments can do it. You're talking about like surveyor.
Let's give them
Well,
a chance.
But I think that,
Some of them are over 90% of salary, you know.
Let's give them.
Yeah, I mean, Not all of them are gonna be able to do it. You can't expect
And then also 10%
Sheriff,
need, that's the
right?
other thing.
All right, but,
the sheriff will have to cut $86,000 off of his budget.
and he,
And the jail will be, their jail's 1.1 million.
okay, and he had 28% increase on a lot of salaries.
yes.
Yeah.
But so I'd rather target him. I have him.
I'm not gonna, I want
I don't-
every single department head to do the exact same thing.
And what do you
And
do
then you'll
when they
get a
come
second
back
bite
and
of
say
the
they
apple,
can't?
because it'll come back to us.
Yeah, we're gonna.
And then we'll have the
You know what I
opportunity
mean?
to do what you're asking.
Like-
Let's give them the option to do what
Give
they
them
should
the
do,
option to do
which
it
is lead their
first.
department.
Let them do their job.
No, but wait till you. Let me choose.
But I mean, this, for instance, Brian ran this number 490 that we're, Brian's sheriff's department ran that number up higher than the surveyor's.
Sure he
The
is.
surveyor didn't put a dollar on it.
He's also got a lot larger budget, got a couple.
Yeah, so I'm targeting him, like I had 50,500 already out of sheriff's pool,
And he should have an easy time and should.
but he's only got full 10%. I'm gonna pull more from him.
You can do
You're
that.
probably up.
You're gonna get that opportunity.
We're still gonna be over.
And you're gonna need it, because it's actually 900, not 400.
It's not 900.
It is.
It is.
How's it 900?
Well, until SCERs take. it.
SCER is not the general. They're separate. So it's not 900.
It's going to be.
No, it's not.
No,
We
you
just
have
said
to
it's.
keep it
Well,
separate.
it's its own fund,
Yeah.
but he wants it paid not out of casino revenue. We've got to find a way to pay for it, not in casino revenue.
Yeah, it's totally separate.
Yes.
Okay, so it's 490. Okay. So we're gonna be $80,000 under levy if we do 10%.
It's,
So
490.
Are you counting that he's bringing over Bennington, he's bringing over,
Medical building.
nurse chair managers, he's giving us all that back.
The tech building.
Why would you do that when
It's
we're 490 over?
572. It's 572.
Why would you go out and find more
They have to ask
expenses?
the commissioners.
I
why they
think- I
want it.
think
I
the goal-
understand it.
I
You
think
put
the
our
goal is
bills
to make-
where our bills are
To make
supposed
the
to
real
be.
bills what the real bills
There you
are,
go.
so that everybody understands.
You're, again,
Try to
you're
get me 900.
assuming that the commissioners are gonna keep paying for this. We can't do that. We don't have the authority to tell the commissioners, you are going to pay the county's bills.
Right, keep paying. And, you know,
I don't.
I will reach out and say that we know that, you know, probably in 2025, we're gonna have to give some
Yep.
casino money to help.
I think
We
we're gonna
know
have to
that.
ask.
you know, we talked about this, even, yeah.
But that's what we're here for, is long-term financial planning. And so if you know you're gonna get some casino money in 2025,
But we're
but we
trying
act
to
like
keep
we're not
it
here.
Not.
huh?
We're
They're
trying to
they're
get it.
trying not to, so they're wanting us
Right,
to do.
but when you try not to, when you say, okay, let's plan on not doing it, you gotta cut from somewhere else.
That's called,
It's a zero-sum game.
that's being called being fiscally responsible.
Yeah.
Then when you get to the point that you can't cut anymore, then you go over and you ask the council, can I borrow from that? Will you cover it for me, please?
But I get what
That's
you're
what
saying,
needs to
Lance.
happen.
Lance, I do get what you're saying. I mean, there are, you know, if you wanna play the surveyor versus sheriff, you know, yeah, I mean, there are certain departments that are gonna have a little tougher time making that.
We instead of salary,
That's probably the
10%
one
less.
you can't count.
You know, there's some departments that probably will have a hard time making that 10% cut, you know.
There's some, it's gonna be easy.
You know,
Do more.
I mean, it's just,
He would be. What is that?
like I said, I 100% support the sheriff.
Just give him a
That's
chance.
a huge budget.
You're hearing what you
I have to come and beg
Give him a
for
chance.
We can put
a
Give him a chance. He-
$50,000 defibrillator, but he can buy 6 new cars in 1
I
year.
don't think you can. I truly don't
Come
think
on.
you can.
We can set a salary, whatever.
Not during, not unless it's an elected year. It's gotta be coming into it, because we had this issue before.
I thought we did a salary ordinance every year.
Yeah, I don't think you can do anything with Gail's salary, because she's elected. You can't do anything with my salary, because I'm elected, until that election cycle is up.
No, we don't have
No.
to pay any increases
I don't
for any
think it's when
elected.
That's not true. It's done every year on a
It's
salary.
done every year. You can't mess with an elected
I
official's
didn't think you
salary
could.
within the year. Once you
Within
set
the year, you
salary.
can't do it.
But
Once it's set that year, it's that the whole year.
Yeah.
but We can
That's
do it
our-
every year.
That's
Because we raised.
I don't think it,
Council said,
I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what
we're
I,
giving a 3% raise, but the commissioners and council don't get it.
so
Anyway,
we
let's
said,
get
take the
back on.
motion, is anybody gonna do?
I'll make that motion. Department heads cutting 10%. Reducing the general fund, cover the shortfall.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion's made to have department heads cut 10% from their budgets and have it by Tuesday.
Still got a piece on Tuesday.
I'm just trying to give them enough time to do it and doing it quick enough and we can get it done between now and the
That's-
time.
that's
that
his
it has to
deal,
be
Dan.
What
after.
do you,
No,
what are you gonna do with the ones that cannot? I mean, there's just no
We'll worry
way.
about that when it
That's
happens.
the next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll worry about that when it happens. Motion's been made by Eric, second by Matt. All in favor, to letting the department heads cut 10% of their budget to get us in line. All in favor? Opposed? Okay,
Because I think we could have got less than 10%. I
5-2.
think we could. We just threw out 10%.
That's what he thought the number was. Jamie did, when he,
And no, but I mean,
Let's see what they come back.
he's been through all the numbers, but
10% easy to do. All right, second question that I have for council is, the emergency services tax of 0.02%, which on a $50,000 salary would be about $100 a year. $832, $8.32 a month,
0.2 or 0.0?
0.02.
0.02,
It's 0.2%.
0.2%, or $2.08
That's OO.
a week. 0.002.
I don't like to sell it that way, but it's a couple years.
As a way to pay for emergency services, which does not fund itself.
You're entertaining motion, right?
Yes, I'm entertaining a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Andy,
I'll second.
second by Eric. All in favor? Unanimous? That was a hard one for me, fellers.
We're gonna have public hearing and all that on this.
And we have time to get that done before. Do we have to have any special meeting for that to have it done twice?
No, you hold your public hearing and then you go into your regular meeting to adopt. Remember last
So
time
we can
we
do
did,
that.
last time we did it in the courtroom, but we won't need all those.
Let me ask you a question on this. When does that become enacted? Is it a year from now or?
No, it'll,
January.
if
Will
you
be the
adopt,
first year in
if you adopt
January.
before November 1st, you'll start receiving revenue in
In
January.
January. All right,
There's a 300,000 out of SU,
yes.
whatever that's
Well,
gonna be.
yeah, well, we hope.
10% casino revenues.
We're hoping it's the 400.
It'll be over 400.
Yes.
Gonna knock it in, for sure.
Yes. Does anyone else have anything else they want to discuss? Commissioners,
No,
entertain a motion to adjourn.
like that, like it.
From this, we went live. There's a chance of awesome. Probably go. Sit there and then we'll.
The new one.
I'm not making a motion.
We need you to study 10%.
Okay, Gary made a motion to adjourn. I need a second.
Before you do that,
Yes.
you need to establish the dates that you want to hold your public hearing. and the
Oh,
Meeting.
we'll do it on a regular meeting.
October 9th,
Huh?
October 9th,
October 9th,
you're gonna adopt the budget as well as the lit?
hopefully. That's why I would like to have the 10%.
That's what I have it set for right now, but
Yeah, I would like to have the 10% by Tuesday from all the department heads so that we can see where we're at to know if we have to have another meeting or not.
Do you think we should give them a week? I mean, it's Thursday. How many
No,
information-
she calculated it in less than
I
500,
understand. I understand there are more complex
yeah, mine's
departments.
simple.
It's more
but they're only doing theirs. They're not doing everybody's.
So you're
There's no
saying by
reason,
close of business Tuesday?
there's no reason why they can't have it done by tomorrow. I was just giving them Tuesday so they didn't have to work over the weekend like we
I
did.
mean, Brian's gotta go through the jail, he's gotta go through the sheriff's
Communication.
office.
Communications.
He can do it very, he can do it very easily.
He can handle it.
So we will do our public hearing prior to our regular meeting in October, which is
For both of
October 9th, right?
To adopt the lit tax,
Yes.
and you have to do Pleasant as well. You have to adopt their budget.
Jackie, what about, we still got several other funds that don't fund, correct? What are we gonna do about those?
Well, the highway, when they cut theirs, their 10%, right?
And commissioners cut their 10%.
Are they cutting the highway too?
And
Or
that's
just
in
the
the
county
commissioners,
general?
so they'll find their 10% wherever they find it within their budget.
Well, I mean, but
These
highway.
are all outside, the
Highway
10% was general fund, right?
General-
Highway is not.
Highway's not in.
Highway's not in general fund.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I got a animal
Yeah.
clinic, got a other
That's
areas.
not in, that's,
That's the animal
So
shelter
it's-
in the general.
so it's every fund every budget they have to cut.
the commissioners,
Correct.
the commissioners are in charge of a bunch of different departments. Some are in the general fund, some are out.
Yeah.
I'm asking about the ones that are out.
County highway, MAH and local roads. Well, they don't affect general
Cambridge.
funds, why would they cut them?
Because
They
they
fund.
don't
This
fund.
highway's over.
Highway and local road and
And
street
that's
both
up
don't
to-
fund.
To you guys, say, what are you gonna cut?
They don't fund the health
And public
department.
public safety does, will he be cutting 10%
They got
for
the
public
vote,
safety?
oh, this is it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's for the Brian.
Say that. Step also.
Well, you know,
The department heads.
There's-
But the public safety does.
I'm just asking, we voted on the
Public safety
general fund.
funds,
Right.
but does he have?
There's some outside the general fund that don't.
From outside the general fund that we cannot pass their budget if it does not fund. So they have work to do to get that fixed. There was one year, we did not pass the health departments until, was it health department or nurse managed clinic until April?
Yeah.
Because they did not fund, and until they fixed their issue to where they funded, we did not pass their budget.
I hope to avoid that.
I would hope to
I
avoid
hope
that
to
too.
avoid that.
But it's the department heads and the people that are in charge of those departments that need to fix their problems.
Okay. Do they know that they're over?
The health
Yes.
department doesn't.
Who
She doesn't
does?
fully understand. Health department, that's why Kathy wanted to be here, because she,
Yeah,
The
she knows she doesn't fund.
The health department does, that's local health maintenance, is that correct?
Well,
She
there is
knows
no
she
local
doesn't
health
fund.
maintenance anymore.
yeah.
Um,
And that 1168,
she'll spend until that money's gone. 1168, local health maintenance will no longer receive any revenue,
So-
nor will the local health trust.
instead of her presenting a budget for that 1168, should she just leave that out?
No, she
And-
should go ahead and send a budget to appropriate, spend
What
it
she
till it's
has.
gone.
Is that why it's not funding now, because there's no revenue going in that, or is it?
That's,
That's
I'm-
what I don't understand.
if I'm
completely.
thinking right, that's the one that has the food inspector in it, and
Part of it.
and no one's in that position right now.
But
And I'm wondering,
she's got a new fund that she receives from the state.
The 1160.
You guys you opted into Health First Indiana.
Right.
Just making.
She has a food inspector, but it's not, full-time. He does other
She just
things.
came.
There's a lot of unspent money from 24
Backfill.
still in there, and I wonder if she can unappropriate, if we can unappropriate that and make her budget work.
One gateway.
She just came and asked us to
Likely.
backfill that position Monday night. And she's gonna make,
Give me a second and I can tell you
There's
which
two positions,
to do that.
one part-time, one
yeah, and.
Give me a second and I can tell you which funds don't balance.
Wasn't it, am I correct in saying the food inspector is gonna do two duties
Yes.
now?
He does now. He does now.
Being paid out two different funds.
He's being paid out of.
Oh, that's what she said.
Okay.
So you're still looking for a second?
The other one was vital.
We have
Well,
Vital.
Jackie's gonna tell us what funds don't balance,
Besides the.
so that they can hear that all year and they can get busy on their budgets and make it balance. Not expect us to do it for them.
Well, but some of these is, I think we can give them some options as well.
They should be able to know what their own options are. It's their department, it's their business. They should be doing their job of balancing their budget. That is their job to do, not our job to do it for them.
So if the Form 4B doesn't balance, doesn't fund, then Gail can just give them that information and they can get that Form 4B in balance, right? Rather than me going through every one of these, because there's several of them.
There's several of them that don't.
Say that again, Jackie, I'm sorry.
So there's a form that Gail can print off of Gateway that shows whether that fund balances, whether it is solvent for
Which one,
the
what is
next
it
year.
called? For that.
4B.
4B.
And she can print these off and hand them to the people who presented that budget and says, this doesn't fund, you've got to get the council says you got to get this within funding.
Yes.
And I guess like 1168, that's the one I was asking about. And I know that one's going away, but in that scenario, that one's, I don't even know what it, I had it in front of me. Is that like 18,000 over or something like that?
Is that fine?
Most likely.
The local health maintenance, it's the one the food inspectors paid out of. Let me find
It is
1168 local.
16,000, it is
So
16,000.
I guess this is what I was asking. So a lot of that is assuming that they're paying that food inspector salary all year, which they're not. This year, 24, can we unappropriate that? There's no one in that position. Can we unappropriate that money?
Yeah.
And she'll fund for next year?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. She doesn't know that.
Right.
It's not that the budget for next year's too high and she needs to cut 10%. That's not it. They still got a position
You're talking about the nurse managed clinic?
that we're
No.
talking about. local health maintenance.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, here's an option, hey, unappropriate money for that position that you don't have anybody in anymore, and you're done.
You're saying the person that runs that unit doesn't know that there's not a person in that position?
No, she
No, I'm
doesn't
saying-
understand to.
I'm saying she doesn't know how, she might not know how this works, where, and she understands why it doesn't balance for next year.
And they have the ability to go out and hire Jackie themselves because the state allows that, not for us to do this for them. They can hire, bring Jackie down there.
All right, that's fine.
Right?
No,
And or the auditor can walk them through.
No, that,
why would we bother doing any job with financial at all? Just, let's don't do anything, let's go home.
I would
I
like,
took a day off of
I'll
work.
second the motion that we end the meeting.
okay, Jerry made a motion to adjourn. Matt made a motion to, or second. All in favor?
Thanks for coming.
You want to stick?
Are we gonna need some things? We're just gonna get the numbers in from. Gail, when those numbers come in from the department heads, can you just send them to me as they come in?
when will we have the Form B?
She's gonna send them to all the people who don't come and have them work their budgets.
All the ones that don't fund by then.
Yes.
Well,